Hey everyone, and welcome back to my channel, What the Beck. Today we are going to be getting very French. We're going to be crocheting a beret. This is what it looks like. This one is fairly small. It is 8.5-ish inches. I was told that the standard size of berets is usually around 10 inches, but it looked weird on my head since I have a little baby brain. I need a baby size hat, so I will give instructions to make it bigger. If your head is bigger, you need a bigger size, but it's very simple. You make a circle and then you make a donut shape and then you just sew them together. So let's get into it. For this project you will need yarn of whatever color you prefer, scissors that have magnetized your yarn needle to it, and a measuring tape. And you will also need a hook. I am using a size 5, but you will need to use whatever size hook that when you chain 60 it will fit comfortably around your head wherever you plan to wear this. So I plan to wear it around the back of my head. The 5mm hook is what allowed me to chain 60 and then it fit around the back of my head comfortably. If you need, if your ring is too loose, then you need to go down a hook size, and if it's too tight, you need to go up a hook size. But just use whatever hook will make it so that 60 stitches fits around wherever you're gonna wear it comfortably. So let's get started. Take your yarn, and you can either make a slip knot and then chain 2, chain 1, and then do 9 double crochets into that chain, or you can use a magic ring and put 9 double crochets and a chain 2 to get your first round. In this pattern, the chain 2 counts as a double crochet. So in our first round, we have 10, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. You're going to insert your hook into the top chain of the chain 2, make a slip stitch, and pull it very tight. This is how I get my ends to stay, the ends of my rows to stay very even and in a straight line. You can weave this in now, but what I like to do is just pull it up and hold it while I crochet the next part. So for round 2, we're going to chain 2. In that same space, we're going to put a double crochet. As you can see, I'm catching the yarn under that. And then we are going to work an increase, which is 2 double crochet in every stitch around for a total of 20 stitches. Make sure you go around and count that you have 20 stitches, and then we are going to insert the hook into the top chain of the chain 2, slip stitch, and pull very tight. For row 3, we are going to chain 2. In the next stitch, do an increase, which again is just 2 double crochets in the same space, and then we're going to repeat that around. So 1 double crochet, 1 increase, 1 double crochet, 1 increase, all the way around for a total of 30 stitches. Again, we are going to slip stitch very tightly to the top chain, chain 2, make 1 double crochet in the next stitch, and then make 1 increase in the next stitch. and then we're going to repeat this around. 2 double crochets and then an increase all the way around. Just keep repeating that. Once you get to the end of the row, you should have 40 stitches, and join the same way we have been with a tight slip stitch in the top chain of the chain 2. For row 5, we are going to chain 2, double crochet again, and then make an increase in the next stitch. The pattern for this row is 3 double crochet and then an increase. So just keep repeating that all the way around. Now that round 5 is done, you should have 50 stitches. Connect at the top, chain 2, chain 2, and then we are going to make 3 double crochets, followed by an increase. We're going to repeat this pattern around. 4 double crochets and then an increase all the way around for a total of 60 stitches. Now that you have your 60 stitches, you are going to connect as always, chain 2, and now we're going to make 4 double crochets, and an increase in the next stitch. This gives us a repeat of 5 double crochets and then an increase all the way around. So now your 7th row is done. You have 70 stitches. We're going to join and chain 2. And then we are going to create 5 double crochets, and then an increase for a total of 6 double crochets and then an increase, and repeat that all the way around. So now that the 8th row is finished, for my 9-inch beret, this next row will be the final row. You may need to add more. Just after this next row, hold it up to your head where you plan to wear it and see if it's wide enough. If it isn't, then you will need to add another row, and I will tell you the directions for that row after this one. But this row, we are going to make 6 double crochet and then an increase for a total of 7 and then an increase. So this one counts as 1. We're going to do 6 more and then an increase. And repeat that all the way around. So now that I have completed row, row 9, I have 90 stitches. I'm going to measure this across the middle, and it looks like it is 9 inches, so it will fit me. Like I said, if you need it to be larger, hold it up behind your head wherever you plan to wear it and estimate about how much wider you'd like it to be. Note that each row of double crochets is a little bit more than ½ an inch, so if you want to add an inch and have a 10-inch beret, you should only do 1 more row. But my little pattern here, the way we're doing the increases, the last row we did was 7 and then an increase, so you could then do another row of 8 double crochets and then an increase, and if you wanted an even wider one, you could then do a row of 9 double crochets and then an increase. But as you can see, that made it too big for me, so I took those out of my personal instructions. So if this is your last round, if it's not, go ahead and make those other rounds and then come back. If this is your last round, you are going to put your crochet hook into the top chain of the chain 2 and pull the slip knot very tight. Take your scissors, and you're going to need to estimate how much yarn you will need to sew the 2 pieces together later. So I recommend going around the outside circumference of the piece twice and then just pulling a little bit extra and cut it there. That way you will have enough to tie it together later without having a super long tail. And then put this aside. Now for the part of the hat that touches your head. The reason that I had you use a hook that when you make 60 chains it'll fit around your head is because the first step is to chain 60 and turn it into a ring. So we are going to take our yarn, leave a little bit of a tail to tie in later, make a slip knot, and then go ahead and chain 60. Usually when people chain for their projects, they do it a little bit loose because it's supposed to, they tend to like make it a little bit too tight, so they actively try to make it looser so that their next row of stitches will fit onto it. You don't necessarily have to make these loose, but just make them as tight as they need to be so that 60 will wrap around your head and stay put. So I will see you once I have finished chaining 60. So I have chained my 60 chains. I'm going to lay this out consistently so that my stitches are not twisted. Then I'm going to bring this side over and put my hook into the back loop of the very first stitch, and then I'm going to slip stitch again very tightly into that. I'm going to chain 2 and pull this loop up large so that it won't unravel, and now you're going to measure to make sure that this fits on your head. If you do not make it so that it fits your head, you might have to add pins to keep it on your head or pins to keep it in your hair. But if you don't have a lot of hair, or if you aren't planning on adding anything else to it, make sure that it fits your head at this point. So I'm going to test this, and that fits me pretty perfectly. So if you look at this finished beret, this only has 3 rows. If you added more rows to your beret than I did, then you will need to have 3 rows plus however many other rows you added. But we are going to basically copy the last 3 rows of the top of the beret. So that means that this first repeat will be 5 double crochet and then an increase, and that will be repeated all the way around. So since we're starting with a chain 2 into the next stitch, I'm going to do a double crochet and then do that for the next 3 stitches as well, for a total of 5. And then I will do an increase. And repeat that all the way around. This will give you a total of 70 stitches. And before you join the round, see how my piece is kind of like curly queuing on itself? You can fix that by turning the whole thing around. That means that I actually did get my chain twisted, so that's what we're trying to avoid by not twisting the chain when you join it. But you can still continue. Your yarn will just be coming in from the inside of your project, so try to avoid that if you can. But regardless, we are now going to connect this round by putting your hook into the top chain of the chain 2, pulling a slip knot very tight, and chain 2. Since the last round was 5 double crochet and then an increase, we're going to now do 6 double crochet and an increase all the way around. So after the chain 2 we need 5 more. And then an increase. And then repeat that all the way around till you get to the end. Now that your second row is done, you should have 80 stitches. And for the next row, it is going to be 7 double crochet and then an increase. So we start by joining and chaining 2. 7 minus the one that we already did is 6 more. And then an increase in the next stitch. So now we're going to have 7 and then an increase all the way around. That will give you a total of 90 stitches. We are going to connect the round, pull it tight. If you made your first piece however many rows larger than mine, add those same rows onto this, and then we are going to finish the yarn. So just pull a knot, make it tight, leave a little bit of yarn so that you can weave it in. And then what we're going to do is weave in both tails on this piece. And I worked around my tail on the center of the first piece, but if you did not, you will also need to weave that in and cut the excess off. So I'm going to go weave these 2 ends in and we'll be right back. As you can see, I have woven my ends in. We are going to connect the 2 pieces now. So start with your ring-shaped piece. Turn it so that the right side of the stitches is facing down, and then take your larger circular piece. Make sure your tail is pulled all the way through. I forgot to do that, so there we go. Lay that on top. If you can find the place on the ring where your stitches ended, I suggest lining that up with the place where the tail on the circle starts. And you can pin these. I'm not going to, but essentially what we're going to do is just take the end of the long tail, thread it onto your needle, and then just start whip stitching these together. So I like to do one stitch that connects the knot on both together, like so. And then from then on, I pick up 1 stitch of each layer. So here's the stitch from the ring, and then here's the stitch on the circle. So it looks like you have 4 strands, and just keep going around, linking the next stitch to the next stitch on the other layer. And once you get to the end, you will weave in your final tail, cut off the excess, and then you will be done. And here is the finished beret. It's pretty basic. You can add bows to the front of it. On top you could add little sewn details. I've seen some that look like lemons or other fruits. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know if you want any other kind of crochet tutorials, because I like making them. I like crocheting a lot, so I would be happy to make more tutorials for you. But that's it for this video, so leave me a thumbs up if you liked it, subscribe if you want to see more, and share this video with someone who you think might want to make a crochet beret. Bye-bye!